Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Josie Dunham, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Robert Curtis. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, St Joseph's School, East Maitland, Edgeworth Public School. From Victoria, St Killan's School, Bendigo, Toorak Primary School, Toorak. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Girls and boys, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land that they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private George Gunning. George Gunning was born in Hay in New South Wales in 1880 to Joseph and Eliza Gunning. His father owned and operated the Bridge Hotel, was an early property developer, and was described as a leading light in the early days of Hay. George was educated at the Church of England Grammar School, known as Shaw, in North Sydney. He was a prefect and a member of the rowing team. Following school, Gunning followed his passion for rowing and moved to Victoria to compete in professional races. He had some minor success, but returned to Sydney a few years later and retired from the sport. He became an accountant and a rowing coach. After leading a Sydney University team and a seniors crew to victory, he was selected to coach the New South Wales crew at the Interstate 8 Ord Championships in 1913. Gunning enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in January 1915 at the age of 34. At the time, he was the honorary treasurer of the New South Wales Rowing Association and vice-captain of the North Shore Club. He was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, which was part of the 1st Brigade, and embarked from Sydney on the 13th of April on board HMAT Hororata, bound for Egypt. After a period of training in Egypt, Gunning was sent to the Gallipoli Peninsula, arriving on the 9th of July. On the 6th of August, the 1st Brigade led the charge at Lone Pine in a brutal and bloody battle that pitched Australian forces against formidable entrenched Turkish positions. Whilst the main Turkish trench was taken within 20 minutes of the initial charge, this was the prelude to 4 days of intense hand-to-hand fighting, which resulted in over 2,000 casualties. Private George Gunning was among those killed in action in the Battle of Lone Pine. He was initially reported as wounded on the 8th of August, and his status was later upgraded to wounded and missing. It was not until the end of May 1916 that a court of inquiry determined he had been killed in battle. An article about Gunning, published in the Sydney newspaper Referee in June 1916, remarks, "It seems hard to realise that he has lost his life fighting, because in private life he was one of the most genial men one could meet. He had a smile and a good word for everyone and was very popular." Private Gunning's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among the more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private George Gunning, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.